Hello, I'm going to be reading a book to you named Robots Rule the School by Ada Hopper. I'm going to start with chapter 1. The future is now. Giant robotic planes did loop-the-loops in the sky. Fireworks burst in the air. Mechanical arms clapped and cheered while a little boy hugged a robot puppy. Gee, Sprocket, the boy said, the future is awesome. Arf, arf, said the robot puppy. That's right, Timmy, said an announcer. The future is awesome, and the future is now, now, now. The announcer's voice faded out as the dataset science teacher, Mrs. Bell, turned off the smartboard. And that, Mrs. Bell said, leads us into our chapter on robotics. She began passing out boxes to the class. This week, your assignment is to invent your own robots. These kits have the gears and motors to get you started. Your robot can do anything. They can tie shoelaces, they can clean your room, they can even do your homework. The students laughed. The only requirement is that it does something to make our lives better, Mrs. Bell said. Gabe gave Laura and Cesar a big thumbs up. As Newtonburg's resident whiz kids, this assignment was right up their alley. Suddenly, a girl with straight blonde hair and glasses shuffled into the classroom. She handed Mrs. Bell a note. Ah, yes, it's so nice to meet you, said Mrs. Bell. Class, welcome Olive Thompson. She was from Teslaville Prep, but now she will be joining us as a new student. The class said hello, and Olive slowly waved back. Mrs. Bell directed Olive to an empty desk next to Cesar. Hi, Cesar. Hi, Cesar held out his hand. I'm Cesar. Olive didn't answer. Like the emperor? Cesar joked. About his name? Or the salad? Olive still didn't answer. Okay, said Cesar. He handed Olive a robot box kit. So, you used to go to Teslaville Prep. That's a tough school to get into. You must be pretty smart. Is that our assignment? Olive asked abruptly. She pointed to an advanced mathematics problem on the whiteboard. No, said Cesar with a laugh. That's the Curve Buster board. Mrs. Bell puts up a super stumper problem from the National Science Academy magazine each week. If you solve it, you get an extra 10 points on your next quiz. No one ever solves it, though. Well, except Gabe that one time. Before Cesar could finish, Olive walked over to the whiteboard. She erased a symbol in the equation and changed it to a new one before circling an answer. Yes, Olive. Do you have a question? Mrs. Bell asked in surprise. Suddenly, Olive saw that the entire classroom was staring at her. Her cheeks flushed. No, ma'am. May I ask what you are doing? Mrs. Bell followed up. Solving the equation, said Olive. The symbol was incorrect. Mrs. Bell shook her head. I copied that problem exactly. She pulled the magazine from her desk drawer. I'm quite careful to. The teacher trailed off. Well, I'll be. You're right, Olive. The problem was incorrect and you solved it. Gabe, it looks like you have a new curve buster buddy in class. Everyone's jaw dropped, especially Gabe's. Wow, said Cesar. Olive was pretty smart. Chapter 2. Robot Assistants. I'm just saying, she was showing off a little, that's all, Gabe said. He and his friends were walking home from school. They couldn't stop talking about Olive. You're just jealous because she figured out the answer instead of you, Laura teased. No, Gabe insisted. He paused. Okay, well, maybe a little. I figured I'd have a chance to copy the problem down and work on it at home. I didn't realize she would solve it on the spot. The friends looked across the street. There was Olive, walking home alone. She pushed her long hair behind her ears and clutched her notebooks tightly. You sat next to her, Cesar, said Gabe. What was she like? Cesar watched Olive turn a corner and shuffle out of sight. Pretty, he said, distracted. Huh? Asked Gabe. Pretty quiet, Cesar corrected himself, but nice. Gabe and Laura exchanged a glance. Anyway, said Laura, let's talk about robots. What are you guys making? At that, Cesar perked up. I'm going to build a robot that stirs cake batter, he said excitedly. Laura giggled. That already exists. It's called a mixer. Yeah, but my robot is going to stir the batter and bake the cake at the same time. Super fluffy, never burned cake with no mess. I'll name it the Mix and Munch Bot. Patent pending. Cool, said Gabe. What about you, Laura? Laura thought for a moment. Well, Mrs. Bell said the robots should make our lives better. Like the Mix and Munch Bot. Patent pending, Cesar said. Well, I'm always searching for my tools when I'm working in the treehouse, Laura continued. So I'm going to build a Swiss Army tool that can store my tools and hand them to me when I need them. Sweet, Gabe grinned. No, my idea is sweet, Cesar pointed out. Her idea is more handy-dandy. Gabe smiled. Well, I'm going all out artificial intelligence. I'm building a robotic classroom assistant. It will respond to voice commands and be able to learn so it can anticipate your next request. I think Mrs. Bell will be really impressed. Did you say assistants? A strange person suddenly popped out of the bushes right in front of the data set. It was Dr. Bunsen, holding a metal detector. Ah, cried the kids, Dr. B. Gabe was startled. You really have to stop surprising us like that. Yes, quite, agreed the doctor. But until then, I believe I have just the robot assistants you three need. Follow me.